When we think of the best Big Ten running backs in recent memory, we think of guys like Saquon, J.K. Dobbins, and Blake Corum. But one guy who doesn't get nearly the recognition he deserves, most likely because of the school he plays at, is Mohamed Ibrahim. This dude played at Minnesota from 2017 to 2022, and during that time span became the greatest running back in school history. He also dealt with some really unfortunate injuries along the way, but in whole put together one of the best college careers we've seen from a running back. And when you become the best running back ever at a major Power 5 Big Ten school, you most certainly deserve more recognition than this man has received. In this video, we go over the extremely productive collegiate career of Mohamed Ibrahim. So let's get into it. Mohamed came out of Good Counsel High School in Maryland and became a 3-star recruit during his time there. He had a really good senior year where he played in 10 games and had 206 carries for 1,314 yards and 15 touchdowns, which put him just over 131 yards a game. Very, very solid. His efforts earned him some offers from schools such as Temple, Kentucky, Iowa, and Minnesota, and though experts predicted that he would commit to Kentucky, he would end up choosing Minnesota. In his first year, he decided to redshirt, and though he wasn't able to show his ability on Saturday, he was able to display it during the week on Scout Team, and ended up being the 2017 Scout Team Offensive Player of the Year for the Gophers. And I know that award isn't the most glamorous, but I don't want to just brush past that. This is a Big Ten school, and the Scout Team is filled with very skilled and hungry dudes, all fighting for playing time, which means that they're putting their all into the Scout Team, and yet it was Mohamed who showed out the most as one of the youngest guys on the team. During that stint, he proved what would eventually be clearly evident, which was that there were very few guys who were going to outwork him. That evidence would come sooner than later, as he got the start in the 2018 season and did not disappoint. As a redshirt freshman in the Big Ten, he carried the ball 202 times for 1,160 yards and 9 touchdowns, which is a great stat line for his first season as the starter. Looking at the Minnesota offense, Mohamed was really the only consistently productive player for that squad. They had Tyler Johnson and Rashad Bateman, who are both doing their thing in the league right now, but if we take a look at the guys who were supposed to get them the ball, we see two very mediocre quarterbacks at best. So with the limit on the Gophers' passing offense, Mohamed was able to pick up that slack and be that go-to back throughout the whole year as just a redshirt freshman. He was an all Big Ten honorable mention that year as well, which meant that there were big things to come from this dude. In year 2, he did have a drop-off in stats, but the team as a whole had one of their best seasons in program history. They went 11-2 and finished the season off with a win against Auburn in the Outback Bowl. Their efforts earned them the 10th ranking in the final AP poll, and it was overall a great season for PJ Fleck and his team. When we look at where the offensive production came from in that 2019 season, it's a complete shift from that 2018 season. Tanner Morgan balled out, and because of that, Tyler Johnson and Rashad Bateman also went crazy that season. Tanner Morgan had 3,253 yards with 30 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. As for that wide receiver duo, Tyler Johnson had 83 receptions for 1,318 yards and 13 touchdowns, and Rashad Bateman hauled in 60 receptions for 1,219 yards and 11 touchdowns. So as I mentioned, the heavy lifting came from the air attack, and it clearly worked looking at how Minnesota ended the season. Getting back to Mohamed, the featured back that year was actually Rodney Smith, who was playing in his 6th season at Minnesota. The previous year, I think he was supposed to be the featured back as well, but he only played in 2 games, which I'm going to assume was due to injury, which is why Mohamed was the featured back that season. In the 2019 year, Mohamed's carries got cut in half since Rodney Smith was healthy the entire season, and when your carries get cut in half, you can only do so much. He finished the year with 604 yards and 7 touchdowns, which is not bad at all with the amount of opportunities he had. But with Rodney Smith departing next season, this was fully Mohamed's backfield, and the man showed out. In a COVID season that the Gophers only played 7 games in, this man carried the ball 201 times for 1,076 yards and 15 touchdowns. Doing some quick math, that's about 154 yards and 2 touchdowns a game. Now, I know that it's unlikely that he would have kept this pace for an entire season, but I don't care how you look at it, that is an insane stat line, regardless of the fact that the team only played in 7 games. Those numbers would be considered really good for any running back in a full season, and this man did it in half a season. To put in perspective the amount of yards he almost had as many rushing yards as Tanner Morgan had passing yards, and the dude doubled his passing touchdowns on the ground. Crazy. For his efforts, he was named the Big Ten Running Back of the Year, All Big Ten First Team, and was an AP Third Team All-American. Looking at the fact that he was able to do that in half a season, the country was waiting to see what this guy could do in a full season. Unfortunately, he did not get a chance to showcase his ability throughout the whole next season, but we did get a glimpse of what could have been. In the season opener, the Gophers faced 4th-ranked Ohio State, and Mohamed was absolutely gashing them. He would tragically sustain an ACL tear in the third quarter while they were up 21-17, and he was out for the rest of the year. But in just over half a game, he had 30 carries for 163 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's crazy, man. Like, this was no bum team either. This was the 4th best team in the country, and it's very safe to say that had he not gotten injured, Ohio State could have lost that game. So just to recap, in 7.5 games, this man had 1,239 yards and 17 touchdowns, which is extremely impressive. Determined more than ever, he spent that whole season rehabbing, and to no one's surprise, came back and put on a show during his final season with Minnesota. In 2022, he carried the ball 320 times for 1,665 yards and 20 touchdowns. With those final season stats, he broke the school record for yards and touchdowns in a season and captured the school record for all-time rushing yards and all-time touchdowns. He was also named to the All-Big Ten second team and was an AP second team All-American. A truly amazing and fitting end to this guy's college career. He would end up not getting picked in the 2023 draft, but signed with the Lions as a free agent immediately after the draft. In the 2023 season, he would once again run into injury trouble as he sustained a dislocated hip returning a kickoff in late October. That injury required him to have immediate surgery in order to put that hip back into place, but he made it through and is currently recovering from that. But if we have learned anything from looking at this dude's career, it's 1, that he has the ability to be productive, and 2, he's not going to let injuries hinder him, because if he can come back from a torn ACL and put up over 1,600 yards, then he'll be able to come back from this injury and hopefully give the Lions some production. So with a look back on Mohamed's career, we see a couple things. The first thing I noticed from his stats is the amount of carries he had at Minnesota. If he had played that full 2021 season, he definitely would have exceeded 1,000 career carries, which is much harder to sustain than it might seem. He was only 5'10" and just over 200 pounds, so it's not like they were feeding Derrick Henry 200 to 300 times a season. Even in that 2021 season with just over half a game, he still had 30 carries. Man, he was on pace for damn near 60 carries that game, which is a huge toll on your body. But I don't think the offensive coordinator and PJ Fleck would have fed him that much if they didn't think he couldn't take it. So props to Mohamed for being a true bell cow back, and with an insane amount of carries comes a lot of production, which is evident from the fact that he holds every rushing record for the school. A truly underrated career in my opinion, and my hope is that he's able to come back from that dislocated hip and put up some good numbers in the league. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to like and share it as that helps the channel to grow. Besides that, until next time.